Hey everyone, welcome back to another Rugged DIY. I'm Steve Mikulich, and today we are going to be setting up a section of fencing. The section that we're going to be rebuilding is the last remaining section that was damaged when the trees fell this last spring. I'm going to walk you through the process that I use for setting up fencing, setting the posts, and running the fence boards, and how I ensure that everything is aligned. It is a blistering hot day today. It is the end of June here in Maryland. It's going to be in the 90s. I'm going to try to get the fence post set as soon as possible, and then we'll return and run the fencing a little bit later in the evening once it cools off. To prepare for setting the fence posts, you want to run some string line to make sure that the outside edge of the post aligns with the outside edges of the existing posts. You also want to run a string line over top of the post so that you know where the top of your new posts should sit to keep all of your fence posts in alignment. The typical distance between fence posts is about 8 feet. The distance between these two posts is about 22 feet. I want to split the difference between each post. So each post is not going to be exactly 8 feet apart. Now we've got a pretty decent hole dug. So what we want to do now is take our post and do a draw and run, set it inside of our hole, align it with our string line on top and bottom, and make sure that it sits where we want it to sit. Alright, so you can see here that we're still above the string line. And what we want is for the string line to sit just at the top of this post. So we're going to have to take, about maybe 4 or 5 more inches out of the hole, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and put the concrete in. Alright, I think that looks good, okay? We are just below the string line. It doesn't have to rest perfectly on it, just as long as it's not too far below or too far above. We're nice and aligned with this front line string here, which means that we're aligned with the face side of the rest of these posts. So I think this hole's good. I think we go ahead and set this one in concrete. Actually, before we set this in concrete, what we're going to want to do is get a fence post level. We're going to want to set that on the fence post and verify that it is actually even on either side, that it's not tilting one way or the other. Okay, so I need to tilt a little bit more in this direction, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to take away a little bit of the dirt from the back of this hole in order to give myself the adjustment. So just a little bit more adjustment to the hole and I think we'll be set. Okay, now that's good then. All of my bubbles are aligned, they're centered. The post is nice and straight up and down. The front side of this post is aligning perfectly with my string line so that the face of my post is in line with the face of the rest of the fencing. Okay, so when you're pouring the Quikrete, which is what I recommend, and I'm not sponsored by Quikrete, there's no reason for me to suggest it other than the fact that it's just a good product. But when you're pouring it, you're gonna have some cloud of silica coming up. So you're gonna want to make sure that you wear a mask anytime that you're pouring this into place. Now, this is just a matter of personal preference. May not actually be required, but I think that it sets better when you pour just a little bit of water over top and let it kind of seep into it. Now, the way that the Quikrete product works is when you pour it into the hole, it'll set using the water within the ground. But I just find that it sets a little bit faster, and for me and my preference, I just like to put a little bit of water on it and get it done. Okay, so that post is set, all right? We're gonna let that set for about 30-40 minutes before we use it, but actually because it's so hot, I'm gonna get this other one set real fast, and then we're gonna let these posts sit until later on this evening. But there's a little bit more shade, it's not so humid. You can see, just from this little bit of work, I'm already sweating a ton. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this other post done, and then we'll come back and actually run the fencing later this evening. So we're back now, it's 4:30 in the evening. For reference, it was about noon when we were doing the first half of the job. We've got all the posts in. We ran into a couple problems when we were setting the second post. The location I wanted to put that post was right over top where the old post was. So I had to shift it a little bit, which meant that the gap between the first post and the second post was greater than 8 feet. So I ran down to the hardware store and got a couple of 2x4x10s, which we'll cut into length. Now that's going to be a little bit longer than the typical 8-foot spread in between each post, but that's fine. So let's just get started. I'll go ahead and set the 2x4s, and then we can start running the fencing. All right, so the hard work is done. The fence posts are set, the 2x4s are up, we're ready to hang the fence boards. In my opinion, this is the easiest part. It goes the fastest. I use a nail gun, but of course if you want to use a hammer and nails, because that's what you got, then use it. Now I went ahead and put a string line across the top of my fence boards, because I'm going to be joining a new run of fence boards with an old run of fence boards, and I want to make sure that the line of sight of the top of those joining boards are even. And putting that string line will allow me to align my fence boards as I'm making my run. Okay, well, that's it. The fence is done. I think that it looks great. I had contractors come out and quote me for about $5,000 to do all the fencing that was damaged. I was able to fix this portion of the fence, the rest of the fencing that wraps around the front, my neighbor's fencing, build him a gate, and some fencing on the other side of my yard, all for under $500. DIY work is not easy, but you know, the money that you save by doing it yourself, to me, is worth it. And beyond that, I just really enjoy doing the DIY jobs because it's like a hobby for me. I just get a lot of satisfaction out of starting a project and seeing the finished outcome when I'm done. Now, if you like this video and you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe so that I can send you more videos like this as I continue all my DIY projects. Thank you.